Welcome to the Startup Support Surgery podcast, where we light the entrepreneurial spark in medics and healthcare professionals. Join me, Dr. Joe Watkins, GP, business coach and co-founder of The How People, on a journey to discover where your medical know-how meets the business world. This will help you find some clarity on how to balance work, passions and family so that you can gain more freedom and control over your life, but also continue to help people, which is actually why most of us went into medicine to start with. Embarking on this entrepreneurial adventure is not easy. It is a roller coaster of emotions, but it's hugely rewarding and exciting in the process. Drawing on my 20 years of blending medicine and business as a GP, I am here to share experiences, insights and lessons. Expect lively chats, expert interviews and real-life stories from medics who have taken their own path. Let's break free from traditional healthcare norms and explore more innovative ways of making a real difference to people's health and well-being, along with paving the way for a brighter future for us as healthcare professionals. Oh, don't miss my free PDF called From Stethoscope to Startup, which is an 11-page guide in the show notes full of practical help and advice. This is your roadmap to kickstarting your journey with us. Enjoy the show. Welcome back to the Startup Support Surgery podcast. Today, we are diving into the world of leadership, resilience, and impactful careers with our brilliant guest, Dr. Shub, as he is known to everybody on LinkedIn and everywhere. Shub is a certified executive coach and emergency medicine physician who brings a unique blend of frontline medical expertise and executive coaching to the table. He has qualifications and certifications of quality improvement and communication impact coaching. Shub has lived and worked across 7 organisations, 6 cultures, 2 countries, and gives invaluable insights along the way. Shub's coaching philosophy is all about empowering clinical leaders to navigate complex transitions, enhance leadership effectively, and thrive under pressure. Whether it's crafting non-traditional career paths or making high-stakes decisions with clarity, Shub is calm, empathetic, and action-orientated, and is a trusted guide for so many. In this conversation, we are going to discuss impact. We're going to discuss passion. We're going to discuss purpose. We're also going to discuss what it's like to be a medic on social media and how to deal with uncertainty. And my random fact about Dr. Shub is that he is an expert in making French toast. That is what you've been doing since the age of 4. And I guess anyone in your family that wants French toast, you're the man. Is that right?
Absolutely. Every Sunday morning, especially.
Really? I love it. Are you a maple syrup fan or a
I
bacon
love maple syrup. Personally, I like a savory French toast with bacon and maple syrup. My wife likes a cheese stuffed French toast.
Cheese stuffed. Oh my goodness, you're
Yeah,
talking to somebody that loves eggs in any format. That I'm yet to have a cheese stuffed French toast. That's got to go on the menu.
it's definitely, I'm going to claim it as my invention because I came up with it. So some cream cheese inside, 2 pieces of bread, bit of salt, and a French toast. So
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
so good.
Okay, that sounds amazing. I love it. Right. So Shub, I've given everybody a little bit of an introduction. Tell us yourself, who you are, who you help. Let's sort of find out how this has all come about, because you are a great medic in an entrepreneurial space doing amazing things. So first of all, thank you for joining me, and then tell us all about who you are.
No, thank you for having me. It's absolutely fantastic to be here. So I'm Shubhendu Kulshreshtha. Everybody calls me Shub. I'm an emergency physician, an IMG because I grew up in India. But the big chunk of what I do now is some executive coaching for clinicians. Think of it like a bit of career strategy for developing a non-clinical career. And by that, I also mean sort of leadership innovation roles within the NHS or within a hospital setting. And I do that one-on-one in group settings. And the idea is that I really think clinicians want to make an impact, really want to make a difference. That's the one thing that we all really strive for. And it's being taken away from us more and more every day, every year. So I want to give that power back to clinicians, help them figure out what their purpose is and create a strategy that gives them the career that they want.
Amazing. And you're doing this with all sorts of different doctors, any particular sort of group of people, or all sorts of people that you work with?
So it's clinicians, so that's doctors, nurses, physios, any frontline clinicians. Usually, the people I work with end up being doctors, and they're often about 4 to 10 years after registration. So after they've gotten a bit of clinical experience and they've gathered some more skills, and they've realized, oh wait, there was a lot of other things that I used to do, a lot of other things that I enjoy doing, and I want to build something of my own, or actually do more with this to make an impact and make a difference in the world.
So how did you get into this emergency medicine? How did you get into this world?
Oh gosh, yeah. So yeah, I grew up in India, and I never thought I'd be a doctor. Went to med school, constantly thinking about what else can I do? How do I get into industry, pharma jobs? Everyone says, "Oh, you're only valuable once you've got some clinical experience." So I, bit my tongue and I said, "Okay, let's keep going." Decided to do emergency medicine because I felt like those were my people, and I just got along with them. And then came to the UK for specializing in that. So I've been here for the last 6 years. Did the whole, getting your foundation competency signed off, applying for reg training and all of those bits. And, a few years into that, when things settle down and you're kind of in a bit of a rhythm of saying, like, oh, your ARCP is coming up, you're doing all your usual bits. And then there was just this nagging sense of something missing the whole time. And I said, I was looking up towards this consultant career, and I had this realization that maybe it's not taking me to where I wanted to be taken to. And I also saw that people, and especially GPs, had the ability to really build a portfolio career that always intrigued me, and there's a lot of options and ability. So I said, I need to figure this out for myself. What am I doing when I get to the end? What am I doing with my consultant career? And the only options kind of given to me were like, oh, you can do pre-hospital emergency medicine, or you can do pediatric EM, or you can do ICU, you can do a couple of these other things, and if you really want, you can become like an event medic, or these other bits which are like doctor plus roles. And I said, that's really nice, but I don't think I want to do more of medicine. I want to do something leadershipy, and I've been involved with the Outcome Leaders program from the beginning, as participant, and then in the short life working group, and really passionate about clinical leadership. Anyway, long story short, I decided to really take on a journey with my own coach. Um, and in the process of leaving medicine to go into management consulting, I figured out that the thing that I was missing was the want and the ability to make an impact, which is what I realized everybody else is searching for as well. So I'd actually decided to completely quit, give up my training number, go into management consulting, got myself some interviews off. And the process of doing that was when I realized that the real value lies in the change you make in the world, the impact that we create. Um, and to give you an example, before this realization, I kept asking people, been networking my way into people working in these firms, and saying, what else can I do? How do I actually get a job in management consulting, for example? Um, and they all sort of said, "Oh, work in your CV, do another course, think about doing an MBA." And this was all fine until one day when I was learning how to do my CV, something hit me, and I realized that my CV doesn't talk about the impact I make in the world at all. It talks about, oh, I did like 2 cycles of an audit and I presented it at a national conference, but so what? Like, what does that achieve? What is the difference that made in the world? And that really clicked something in me, and I went back and I changed my entire CV so that those 2 audit cycles became, oh, recognized and improved workflow in the emergency department, saving over 1,000 clinician hours. And the moment I did that, not only did it change my CV, but it changed the way I was speaking to people, the way I was introducing myself. There was like a purpose driving everything that I had done till now, and I was able to show that. And without doing any additional courses, MBAs, or anything, and I started to get referrals and connections that were putting me into these jobs. And I said, hey, it's all about really being purpose driven in terms of what you want to achieve. So then I took that and I said, what if I flip it on its head, and instead of being purpose driven in my CV, what if I'm actually purpose driven in everything that I'm doing from here onwards? And I was really intrigued by that. And the key to it was actually trying to figure out what that purpose was. And that whole journey took me down a different route. It took me down the route of trying to figure out what my strengths are, how do my experiences all to come together, what my purpose is, what my Ikigai is, what Simon Sinek's why is, and all of those things. That whole journey really uncovered a lot of things for me. And at the same time, I decided to do a quality improvement fellowship, which was sort of like a halfway house to management consulting. And um, it was really good because it gave me a methodology, and I thought this methodology was what was going to help me make some progress or some changes in the healthcare system that actually stuck. But what I realized was that at the end of it, it was all about people. And the way we were doing the quality improvement was through quality improvement coaching. So people would come to us and say, I've got some ideas, I've got some abilities, and we'd coach them in using this methodology to implement change that was sustainable. So it was just a matter of like everything happening at the right time. And I said, I love the coaching aspect of it. I love figuring out what my purpose is. And it all just came together and said, I have to become a coach. So I decided to take up the executive coaching training, certification, all of those bits. And yeah, just realized that what I really enjoy helping people with is getting that clarity to make a decision to move forward, that clarity
Mm.
to figure out what that career is going to be.
Yeah, I love that. That's such a great story. And I think so many pieces along the way have been a nudge of a door and an opening of a door. And then, or a nudge of a door, a look of the door, and then shutting the door again and realizing it's not the one you want to go through.
Yeah.
And I think it's really important that people see the story behind what you're now doing, because obviously it's clear to everybody that follows you on LinkedIn and that is part of your world how passionate you are about helping other people find their purpose and support them along the way. But the reason is, all of these steps that have got you here to this point enable you to do that so brilliantly. Did you have your own support when you talked about finding your strengths and Simon Sinek and knowing your why and your Ikigai and all of these things that are the basis of the beginning of my program, what you do, what many people do, because
Yeah.
we've got to know that before we build on it. Did you have help with that or did you work that out yourself?
No, so I did have help. So I think I'm gonna go back to COVID times when I was commuting for about an hour 15 every day. And I was like many of us, I was feeling quite dull and low because of everything going on. And I came across Paul McKenna's happiness podcast, and every day he'd get on a new guest who talk about the happiness and like what gives them happiness in their life. And they were from all sorts of worlds and really experts in what they did. And that kind of opened my door to saying like, actually, there's purpose behind what people do, and what actually gives you happiness isn't the things you achieve but the journey along the way, like a very typical way. But it also opened the door to many other podcasts, and then I was surrounded by podcasts that showed me that there's a different way of thinking and a different way of being. So I had gone to PSWS, professional support and well-being, and I said, I want to figure out my career. Can you help me with maybe a coach? And I knew that we had, as trainees, we have coaching services available. And I got triaged. And the first time they said, well, you don't really need a coach. Just speak to your supervisor. They'll tell you what your options are. And I said, okay, cool. And then, like a whole year later, having decided to quit medicine and gotten myself an interview and all of those things, I went back and I said, I think I really want to figure this out. Can you give me another coach, please? And so I got a coach, and we did all of this. I'd already by then done my own Gallup strengths assessment, and then we did a couple more exercises. We did vision boards. We figured out what future looks like in terms of what I want. Took that journey, and yeah, and that help was really transformative for me.
Yeah, and it really can be, can't it? Hugely transformative. And I think until people can see the impact that it's had on somebody close to them or somebody they hear from, then maybe people can think, well, what on earth is that going to give me? And I should be able to work this out on my own. But it also just that the support, showing you the way, um, gently sort of nudging you forward and knowing that the answers are normally within us, but it's difficult to pull that out, particularly when we've been on a conveyor belt since the age of 13, 14, all the way through. And you talk about this journey, and when you went into medicine, it sounds like you always had this passion to do something different. Was it a family, did medicine run in your family? Was there a lot of pressure on you to do it? No, it was just something that you ended up doing.
Yeah, I come from a family of mostly engineers, I would say. Actually, going back to the French toast, for the longest time, I'd wanted to be a chef. And I
Ah,
have an uncle who's a chef. And he said to me, well, if you become a chef, you're going to work odd hours, you're going to work on holidays and nights, and it's going to be weird. And it's a tough life. And now I say to him that, look, I'm doing emergency medicine, which is odd hours and nights and a tough life as well. So for the longest time, I wanted to be a chef. There was a brief period when I wanted to be a fighter pilot, which was probably just my uncle inspiring me. So I came from a family of people who worked for the government, for the
right.
service.
Yeah.
engineers.
Yeah.
And medicine for me kind of was like a decision about 8 or 9 months before starting uni. Till then, I still remember in India. You've got all of these sort of coaching institutes. They kind of train you for entrance exams or like national exams. And I would finish school at 5, and after school from 5 till 8 p.m., 3 hours, I'd go to this coaching institute, just like lugging a heavy bag and carrying loads of books, and sitting through these classes where people would just basically go over the entire syllabus, and we'd practice loads of questions. And I was doing all of this, and I thought, is this really taking me to where I want to get to? Like, I'm putting in all this effort. Where is this taking me? And that was probably the second time I had looked at my career in that way and said, what do I actually want out of this? And I didn't really know if I wanted medicine or not, but I knew I wanted to do something with my hands. If I was going to put my time, like the next 5 or 6 years, into learning something, I wanted to use that for the rest of my life. I didn't. At that point, I said I don't want to be an engineer who just eventually does an MBA, stands behind a desk, and manages people.
Yeah.
So that's how I ended up saying medicine's not that bad, actually.
Amazing. Now, tell me, so obviously you've taken this other journey. We sort of met over a combined love of purpose, entrepreneurship, business. How have you found sort of running your own business, getting out there, marketing yourself, showing up, attracting clients? How have you found that whole process? Because that's something medics struggle with a little bit usually.
Yeah, it's been an entire new world, and in a way that got me really excited. And to be honest, I've enjoyed the whole journey, and I'm still enjoying the journey. I know that many people don't like the thought of it, but the ability that you have to be able to make a change in the world and reach people and unlock opportunities for yourself through doing that and learning those small skills is really exciting for me. I think so. I've been on LinkedIn for many, many, many years, and it was sort of, I want to say, January of last year when I said, "Hey, let me actually give this a shot, and let me talk about something like once a week." And I didn't really have a strategy. I didn't have a topic. I didn't have a thing. I didn't know I could get clients through LinkedIn. But then I just like came across more and more people like yourself, and just a fantastic community. And I was very nervous and anxious because of all the trolling that happens on Twitter and Insta and a couple of other platforms, whereas LinkedIn is different because everyone's got their real identities on there. Everyone's got their network around them. Everyone's got their work linked to who they are and everything that they say. So it's a very, very professional network, and everybody is very encouraging. Everyone's, even if they want to disagree, they will disagree in a professional manner.
Mm.
um, and I think the feedback that you get, that we all kind of look for from social media, is a lot more reliable than many other platforms. um, so I've absolutely enjoyed it. It's been amazing.
And it's changed, I think, a lot in the last year. I think I was probably around the same time this time last year. I decided to commit to that being my platform of choice, and I really find it incredibly supportive. People often, when you move into a different area outside of the medical world, it can feel quite lonely. And several of my clients have just suddenly been like, "Oh, I found my people. Like here they are." So it's been amazing, hasn't it? I think to see that.
No, the algorithms have really changed, and like, you're getting personalized content. So when you talk about something, it reaches people who are like-minded, and that ability has never been there before. I think with AI and all of this new change, it's fantastic.
Brilliant. What about community? How important um, do you think it is in terms of entrepreneurship to have community and people around you?
100%. I mean, um, I generally tell people that when they want to do something outside of medicine, they don't need to do a course. And yet, that's something that I did. That was a mistake, I guess, I made before figuring out everything else. But what that did for me was give me a community. So the whole coach training happened as a massive cohort of fellow executive coaches and people who were doing fantastic things already. And as a result, we did a lot of partner coaching. And so people ask me, "Do you work with a coach?" And I say, "Yeah, I work with like multiple coaches at the same time because we work on different topics and different things simultaneously." So I think it was around the surrounding myself with people who were doing something bigger and something different that kept constantly opening my eyes and encouraging me and helping me realize that it's possible. So 100% when it comes to entrepreneurship, without having a community, you're kind of just stuck, and taking action becomes harder and harder.
Yeah. Absolutely. So tell us about what you're up to. Tell us about who you work with and whether you've got anything exciting in the pipeline, in terms of being able to work with new people if they're interested in what you've got going on.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess as far as my coaching goes, there's a lot of quality coaching that I still do, a lot of work with IMGs and leadership that's still focused. But for 2025, we've gone into the realm of non-clinical careers. And so far that's been a lot of one-on-one work, but with that sort of filling up, I'm now opening up new things. So one is a self-paced course that people can take. It's sort of like an entry level, just get to know me, get to know the information that I've got. A couple of the big domains of having a high impact career. So, equity, influence, and purpose. I think the overlap of those three really help you create a successful non-clinical career. So we cover that in the online course, and then beyond that, I'm opening up a new group program. So it's called the Clinician Impact Actionship. So it's kind of like a fellowship, but really action focused. It's a very small group cohort. I'm opening up for beta testing at the moment at its lowest price ever. And basically, that gives people the ability to join on, go through 6 sessions, which will cover really the key drivers for a successful transition of your career. And then also introduce you to many more like-minded people. So
So
those
what
on
sort of people are you looking for that group? Are you looking for people that are out there sort of looking at leadership options, maybe where you were 5 years ago, that sort of person? And do they have to be at any point in their career?
Yeah, so this really is going to be the best thing for people who've already dip their toes in something outside of medicine. So maybe they've done a course in, say, AI or health tech, or they've done a leadership course, or they've done a QI certification, and they've got some additional skills that they want to make the most of, and ideally take that in control in terms of where they want to take their career. So perhaps a part-time role or consulting or something of their own, whatever it may be, but they don't really have an idea of how to make that happen yet. What's the problem that they're solving? What's the unique value they bring to the world? For those people, I'm assuming that usually the people I've worked with so far have been about 4 to 10 years into their clinical career. But if you're not, I'm still open to that. I guess if you're somebody understood that there's value outside of medicine and you want to make that happen for yourself, yeah, come speak to me on LinkedIn.
Great, amazing. So what about the difficulties? What about the downsides of running your own business? We've talked about, collaborating in community, and I think obviously you are a walking example of just the learning and the passion that comes from doing something that you really enjoy. But what about the difficulties? Are there any
Mm.
downsides compared to a busy shift in A&E?
Oh, that's a tough comparison. I'm tempted to almost say no, there isn't, but certainly, of course, there is. I think one of the biggest upsides for me in emergency medicine is the fact that when your shift ends, everything ends. You completely switch off, and you're just enjoy your day. You're at home. Yes, you're tired and fatigued, and it takes 24 hours to recover from a night shift, but you're free. Whereas when it's entrepreneurship, there really isn't a deadline. And what I've been really bad with recently is trying to close my day at say 5 or 5:30 in the evening, and I tend to just keep going, especially if there's like a really passionate idea or something new that you want to create. It's very easy to just keep going, and that balance in your life that you want to create is just really up to you. So the food you eat, how well you take care of yourself, how much you sleep is all really up to you, and that's quite difficult when you're the only one sort of guarding your time. um, and I think there's a huge element of not knowing what's going to happen, not knowing where things are going to head to. Um, I think medics, we deal with risk all the time, but we're actually super risk averse. We don't like not knowing what's going to happen. We want evidence behind everything.
Yeah.
Um, and so there's definitely that element of it, which is new for both for me to deal with, but also for my wife to deal with. Like she's never seen me be so uncertain about things, and she's never happy with me going one way for a week and then completely changing direction the next week because something new has been uncovered. Um,
Mm,
so I think it's difficult not just for me but also for the people around me. It's a different journey, but absolutely worth it. Absolutely
yeah.
worth it.
Yeah. And, it is that freedom to do whatever you want that
Yeah.
creates those difficulties with boundaries uncertainty, isn't it? Because actually, that one of the things that we do have to have is this experimental approach to what we put out there in the world. I say to my clients, just whatever you create, hold it quite lightly, because it might not be accepted in the same way that you think, or it may be that you sell all 12 spots in 5 minutes, but the chances are that you might not do that, and it's not a rejection. And we've got to hold this stuff lightly. We've got to be able to twist and turn and adapt to what is required, all with this lack of knowing whether something is going to pan out as we want. And I try and avoid this word success, because what is success? You've talked right from the beginning about impact and how important that is. So is selling 12 spots on your group program, does that make it successful? Or if there's two people on the group program and those people go on and have a huge impact in the world, is that more successful? So we have to hold that lightly, and that is difficult for everybody around us. But what would you say to somebody that is out there thinking about doing something different, whether it be in leadership, within the NHS, within the private sector, starting their own business, doing something to do with health tech, which I'd like to come back to. But do you have some kind of gems of advice that you would give to somebody in that situation?
Yeah, I think, and this is, I don't like giving advice, especially as a coach. I guess advice is hard to get right and often not what's needed. But if I were to give some advice, then I would probably say stay curious for a bit longer. And I guess this is stolen from Michael Bungestania. He writes about the advice trap and talks about staying curious for a bit longer. And I think what that translates to is, when you're looking at stepping outside of a clinical career, really spend time on thinking about the problem that you're going to be solving, whether that's an industry role, whether that's an entrepreneurial journey, whether that's a leadership challenge. Really think about the problem you're going to be solving and how valuable that problem is. We tend to like to jump to solutions and management plans and products and ideas. And I'm sure you probably have loads of experience with this as well. But defining the problem and getting clear on what is it that you're solving is where the true value lies, and the solution's only, I mean, it's only part of delivering that. But yeah, the problem definition and is where the value lies.
I think you're absolutely right, and I'm seeing there's a lot of noise at the moment around innovation and tech. I think this shift in AI, certainly. I mean, we're recording this in March 2025, and it feels like the last 6 months AI has really moved things. And I think there is a tendency for medics, particularly if we're feeling we've got that degree of burnout, or I can't do this forever. I think sometimes there's this grass is greener, like actually what I'll do is jump out of the frying pan and straight into the fire, which is entrepreneurship, innovation, huge amounts of money, tech, all of these things being thrown at people as potential answers. What would you say to people in that kind of world about this? Have you come across that sort of thing before?
Yeah, it's really interesting. So when I first started to talk about coaching on LinkedIn, a lot of people reached out to me. And the kind of coach I am is a very go, go, go coach. Like, you want to achieve something, you want to make a difference. Let's figure out how to do that and take action, whether that's a quality improvement project or whatever it is. But if you're in that space where you're really looking for an exit and you're burnt out and you're really struggling with the way things are in medicine and fatigue, and that's really, really tough, then that's not the place where I would be the right coach for you. And in fact, I almost said, like, I'm not a burnout coach because I can't help you get back to zero. And oftentimes, taking these leaps and taking these journeys outside means going into from a negative to a big positive, because you're going to have to put it in a lot of work, both internally and externally. The mental work and the people work behind it is quite extreme. And sometimes that's not the change you need. Sometimes what you need is just a bit of break, and stability, I think, is a big part of it. I think there are different challenges. So yes, you're not going to face the patient emotions and the risk of death and the risk of litigation if you go into these other fields as much as you would when you go to medicine. But you're also not going to have the same sort of camaraderie and job security and familiarity with your environment when you go to the other side. And I think that needs to be taken into account.
Yeah. Familiarity, job security. And I think, yes, I think going into a situation in the world of tech or business, as somebody that is struggling with burnout, and most people talk about, I mean, I'm not a burnout expert either, but I've, Claire Ashley, who works in the burnout space, there's lots of amazing doctors, but they talk about it being like a 2-year recovery, really, properly. And I think
Mm.
people fail to have this break.
Yeah.
And I think, having a break from work because you're off sick with burnout is not the same as being well and having a break. But going from that into particularly this high stress, high money innovation world, I think you really need to stop and think. And I think your quote about staying curious for longer is a perfect way of putting that, isn't it? It's just, and I kind of, I'm thinking back to some of the decisions I've made, and I think I would do that again myself, just pausing for that little bit longer. Is this
Mm.
actually the right thing to be doing at this time? So thank you so much for sharing that. So what we will do is we will signpost everything in the show notes. Anybody that wants to contact you, where are they best messaging you? Where do you like your messages to come?
Generally on LinkedIn. I'm very active on LinkedIn. I appreciate some of the people might not be on LinkedIn and they're on Insta. I'm on Insta as at Shub says impact. I've also got my website, which is coachwithshub.com. So they can, I guess there's a little form there they can drop or email me.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for your time. Keep doing brilliant things. Keep in touch. Keep sending direct messages. I love being in your world. And thank you for your time today, Shub.
Thank you so much for having me, Joe. This was fantastic.
I hope this episode has sparked some new ideas or challenged your thinking. Transitioning from medicine to business is not easy. It's about adapting our skills while embracing the unknowns of entrepreneurship. It can be nerve-wracking, but remember, you are not alone on this journey. Please feel free to reach out to me via direct message on LinkedIn or Instagram, or just shoot me an email at joe@bendylegs.com for support. And don't forget to grab the free PDF from the show notes, From Stethoscope to Startup, which is your go-to guide and resource for diving into entrepreneurship. Many thanks for tuning in. I will see you next time. Thanks for spending your precious time with me.
This has been a Monkey Pants Productions podcast.